We believe in creating enjoyable environment. What does it mean to create an enjoyable environment? I'm going to talk about hospitality, but it's going to be hospitality from a different perspective. Hospitality is defined as cheerfully sharing food, shelter, or conversation to benefit others. I'm going to talk about how we can create an environment of cheerfulness, an environment where there is high morale. And one of the obstacles towards creating this hospitable environment is when we rely too much on our authority and position to get things done. A strong reliance on authority and position to get things done create an inhospitable or an environment that is not hospitable, and this at the end of the day doesn't make the workplace an enjoyable situation. There are two ways by which you can influence your subordinates or team members to action. One is by relying on your position. By relying on your position, you are actually exerting your authority. In other words, you have the do it or else approach, meaning you better get this job done for me or else there will be this consequence. You will not get your bonus. I'm going to be watching over you, and so on and so forth. So can you actually get someone into action by relying on your position and your authority? The answer is yes. But you will find that his actions and his response to you is limited only to his hands and feet. He will do what you want, meaning that if you ask him to do one, well, he will do one. You ask him to do two, he will do two. In other words, he will be calculative, and you will not be able to expect him to go the extra mile because he's just doing what you ask him to do. There is another factor that you have not considered yet. And that is the factor of influence and not position. In the factor of influence, you are not targeting his hands and feet. You're actually targeting his heart. You are trying to influence him as a person. You are not looking at him as a dot on the organization chart. You are looking at him as a real life person. And in order to reach out to him, you are actually looking at how to understand him and how to communicate with him on a heart-to-heart level. And this is only possible when you practice the skill of conversations. You got to know how to talk one-on-one, heart-to-heart. A lot of what happens here when you exert your position and authority is that you are actually communicating. Now, communicating is important, but communication only gets your point across. It doesn't create that tie of influence, which at the end of the day creates loyalty. And isn't loyalty something that we all want at the end of the day? So creating an environment of influence is important because this makes the workplace into an enjoyable place. A simple way to do this is to begin using this phrase a little bit more often. And the phrase is, how are you? And when you ask this question, how are you, make sure you do the following. You stop and you listen to the answer. Because if this question is asked sincerely, you may be able to notice any points of discouragement. You might notice people who may need help. You may realize that there are people who are stuck in their work and they are just waiting for that friendly invite to talk and to converse. So if you want to create this environment of influence and not just only relying on your authority, learn to ask this question a little bit more often. How are you? Then stop and really listen. So creating an enjoyable environment is simpler than you thought. Just use the simple, good-mannered way of going around and saying, how are you? And then you will be able to extend your influence and then make the workplace into definitely an environment that is enjoyable. Why? Because you enjoy being hospitable to each other.